The night was calm and quiet in the wide desert of Nevada. The stars sparkled above, and only the soft hum of machines broke the silence. Inside a small observatory stood Dr. Aaron Miles, a man who had spent most of his life listening to the whispers of the universe. He was a middle-aged scientist with tired eyes, coffee-stained hands, and a mind that never stopped asking questions. That night, like every other, he sat alone surrounded by glowing computer screens, scanning the endless sky for radio signals from deep space. He never really expected to find anything strange. It was routine work, long hours, static noise, and occasional meteor signals. But that night something happened that would change his life forever. It started with a faint tick on one of his screens. A signal blinked, then disappeared. Aaron leaned closer. He adjusted the frequency, thinking it was just an echo or interference. But then it came again, rhythmic, steady like a heartbeat. The signal wasn't random. It had a pattern. At first, Aaron thought it could be a satellite or a distant pulsar. But as he studied it more closely, he realized it was repeating in a way no natural source could. He copied the data, filtered the background noise, and replayed the sound through the speakers. What he heard made him freeze in place. The sound was mechanical yet desperate. 3 short bursts, 2 long ones, then silence. Over and over again, it was a message, a cry for help. Aaron called his assistant, a young intern named Lucy, who rushed into the control room still half asleep. Together, they checked the signal's origin. It wasn't coming from Earth. It wasn't bouncing off any known satellite. The direction pointed far beyond the solar system, toward the outer edge of the Andromeda galaxy, more than 2 million light-years away. Aaron's hands trembled as he realized what that meant. If the signal was real, someone, or something, was calling for help from another galaxy. And that message had traveled through space for millions of years to reach Earth tonight. At first, he didn't tell anyone. He wanted to be sure. He recorded the signal, ran it through multiple systems, and sent fragments to 2 other observatories secretly. Within hours, they both confirmed receiving the same pattern. The odds of that happening by chance were almost impossible. That night, Aaron couldn't sleep. He walked outside the observatory and looked up at the cold stars. The wind was sharp against his face, and his mind raced with thoughts. What if the message was real? What if someone was out there, lost, alone, and crying out for help? And why now? Why Earth? By morning, the discovery had reached the top levels of the National Space Agency. Agents arrived at the observatory and confiscated all data drives. They told Aaron to stay silent, warning him that this was now classified information. But secrets don't stay buried for long. Within a few days, rumors spread online. Amateur astronomers claimed to have detected the same pattern. News outlets began talking about a mysterious cosmic signal, and social media exploded with theories. Some said it was aliens, others said it was a government test or a hoax. But none of them knew the truth. The message was real, and its contents were terrifying. Hidden deep in a government lab, scientists and cryptographers worked day and night to decode the message. The more they studied it, the stranger it became. The signal wasn't just random sounds. It contained mathematical codes, repeating prime numbers, and a structure that resembled language. After several days, a small part of it was translated into human-readable symbols. The message was short but clear enough to send chills through every scientist in the room. It said, "Help us. They are coming." Before they reach you, Aaron was called in to explain his findings. The conference room was filled with serious faces. Military officers, intelligence directors, and scientists from around the world. The air was heavy with tension. When Aaron finished his report, silence fell over the room. For the first time in human history, there was undeniable evidence of intelligent life beyond Earth, and they were in danger. But what frightened everyone even more was the last line of the message. Whoever sent it wasn't just asking for help. They were warning Earth of something that was coming. Something that had already destroyed them. Outside the meeting, protests began to rise. Some people demanded to know the truth, while others called it a trick to spread fear. Governments denied everything. But satellite operators noticed strange activities, secret launches, encrypted transmissions, and unusual movement at military bases. Something was happening behind closed doors, and the world could feel it. Aaron tried to return to his normal work, but his life had changed forever. Every time he closed his eyes, he could hear that signal. 3 short bursts, 2 long, then silence. It felt alive, almost like a heartbeat echoing across space. He began having dreams of distant worlds, burning skies, and voices crying out in languages he couldn't understand. He started to believe that the message wasn't just reaching his machines, it was reaching him. One evening, a car pulled up outside his small home in Reno. Two men in black suits stepped out and introduced themselves as representatives from a project called Sentinel. They knew every detail of his work, every test he had run, and every recording he had saved. They asked him to join a secret mission under the United Nations Space Defense Division. The goal was simple: find out where the message came from, what caused it, and how dangerous it really was. Aaron hesitated, but curiosity overpowered his fear. He agreed, knowing there was no going back. Before he left, he looked up at the stars one last time from his backyard. The same stars he had studied since childhood now felt different, colder, darker, hiding something unimaginable beyond their light. Somewhere far away, a civilization had reached out to him, trusting that someone on Earth would hear their cry. He didn't know who they were or what danger they faced, but deep inside, he felt that their fate and humanity's fate were now connected. The signal had chosen him, and the world would never be the same again. Meanwhile, in distant laboratories across Europe and Asia, scientists reported hearing fragments of the same message through different frequencies. It was spreading across the globe like an invisible net, connecting every major listening station. Each signal seemed slightly altered, as if adapting, changing tone and structure. It was almost like the message was learning how to communicate more clearly with humans. The scientists began calling it the alien SOS. As the days passed, the tension grew. The media went silent. Online forums discussing the signal were mysteriously shut down. Astronomers began disappearing, transferred to unknown research centers. The public slowly lost interest, thinking it had all been a media stunt. But behind the curtain, the world's most powerful nations were preparing for something they didn't fully understand. The alien SOS wasn't just a discovery. It was a warning that something ancient, intelligent, and possibly unstoppable was moving closer to Earth. Dr. Aaron Miles didn't sleep much anymore. He spent his nights replaying the sound, trying to find hidden meanings within it. Sometimes, when the room was completely quiet, he thought he could hear whispers in the static. Voices, faint and sad, speaking in a language that made no sense yet felt hauntingly familiar. It was as if someone, far beyond the stars, was trying to speak directly to him. One night, while listening to the signal through his headphones, he felt an unexpected chill run down his spine. The message changed slightly and a new line appeared on the monitor. Coordinates. They pointed to a place not in space but on Earth, the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Aaron stared at the screen, his heart pounding. The SOS had been coming from deep space, but now somehow it was echoing back from Earth itself. Something or someone was responding. He didn't know what it meant yet, but one thing was certain. The signal was alive and it was calling them closer. The true beginning of the mystery had just begun, and humanity had already stepped into a story much larger than itself. The morning sky was gray when Dr. Aaron Miles was taken from his home by two silent men in black uniforms. They didn't tell him where they were going, only that, the world needs your help. The car moved fast through the desert roads, and hours later, they reached a hidden entrance carved into a mountain. There were guards everywhere, cameras turning in all directions, and a heavy steel gate that opened only after scanning his eyes and fingerprints. Aaron felt like he was entering another world, one that the public would never know existed. Inside, the air was cold and filled with the hum of machines. Scientists in white coats hurried past with files and data drives, while soldiers guarded the corridors with serious faces. One of the men finally spoke. "Welcome to Project Sentinel." Aaron followed them into an elevator that went deep underground, farther than he thought possible. When the doors opened, he stepped into a vast control room with huge screens showing star maps, satellite feeds, and a digital display of the alien signal pulsing steadily on a monitor. It was the same heartbeat-like rhythm he had discovered weeks ago, but now it was stronger, clearer, and more organized. A tall woman in a gray suit introduced herself as Commander Elena Ward, the head of Project Sentinel. She had sharp eyes and a voice that carried authority. "Doctor," she said, "what you found is no longer just a mystery. It's a warning." She played a translation of the decoded message. Aaron listened again to the robotic voice repeating, "Help us." They are coming. Before they reach you. The words echoed through the room. Elena continued. We don't know who sent it, but the coordinates point to a planet on the edge of the Andromeda Galaxy. We believe that something, or someone, there is asking for help. But they also believe the threat is heading toward us. Aaron looked around and noticed that many of the faces in the room were not scientists. They were military officers from different countries: Russia, China, the United States, Japan, Israel, and more. It wasn't just one nation's project. This was global. He asked quietly, What are you planning to do? Commander Ward hesitated for a moment, then answered, We're building a response team, not of diplomats, but of defenders. A few hours later, Aaron was taken to another section of the base, a darker hall filled with observation rooms. Behind thick glass walls, he saw people training, combat experts, engineers, and specialists working with strange technology. Each person looked more dangerous and disciplined than the next. His guide explained, They are the best of the best, soldiers who no longer exist in official records. Each one has saved the world in silence at least once. He was introduced to the 5 individuals chosen to form Unit 0, the first and only team allowed to cross galaxies on a mission that could decide the fate of humanity. The first was Captain Marcus Reed, a tall, scarred ex-Navy SEAL with calm eyes that hid years of battle. He had led dozens of missions that were erased from history. The second was Viktor Petrov, a Russian sniper who had once vanished behind enemy lines for 3 months and returned alone. Mission completed. The third was Hana Kiyoshi, a silent Japanese assassin trained in both martial arts and infiltration, able to move like a shadow and disappear in plain sight. The fourth was Zuri Khan, an Israeli cyber intelligence genius who could hack into any system within seconds. She was young but fearless. The fifth was Darius Mbeki, a demolition expert from South Africa, known for his strange sense of humor even in the face of death. Aaron watched them through the glass as they trained together, testing weapons that looked like something from the future: plasma rifles, energy shields, and exosuits designed for zero-gravity combat. Each person had a different reason for joining, but they all shared one thing: they had nothing left to lose. Commander Ward explained to Aaron that Unit 0 was humanity's last defense. If whatever destroyed that alien world comes for us, she said, we'll need warriors who don't hesitate. Days turned into weeks as preparation continued. The alien message was fully decoded. It wasn't only a call for help. It included maps of destroyed star systems, tactical data, and warnings about something called the Reclaimers. They were not a species, but machines. Ancient biomechanical entities built to harvest planets and absorb their energy. They had destroyed countless civilizations before. The aliens had sent the SOS hoping someone could stop them. The message also contained a faint signal trace that led to a dying world still sending distress calls. That planet was where Unit 0 would go. Aaron's role was to act as their scientific advisor, decoding any further messages they might encounter. But he wasn't a soldier, and he wasn't ready for what was coming. Still, something deep inside him told him that he was connected to this message in ways he didn't yet understand. One night, while working in the control room, he overheard a heated discussion between Commander Ward and the Council of World Leaders. Some believed that the message was a trap, that the aliens might be luring humanity into a war that wasn't theirs. Others insisted that if they ignored the SOS, the same thing that destroyed that alien civilization would soon reach Earth. If we do nothing, said Commander Ward, we're already dead. Eventually, the decision was made: humanity would respond. Not with peace, but with power. The goal was to investigate the SOS, assess the threat, and if possible, eliminate it. Unit 0 would travel across galaxies aboard a newly built spacecraft called X-99 Quantum Vessel, powered by experimental warp technology designed from fragments of the alien data. It was faster than any human craft ever made, capable of bending space and time, but it was untested. No one knew if it would survive the journey. Before the mission began, each member of Unit 0 had to confront their past. Marcus visited the grave of his fallen team, whispering that he would finish what they started. Victor wrote a letter to his mother in Russia, knowing she might never read it. Hana meditated under the stars, silent and still, as if saying goodbye to the Earth itself. Zuri backed up all of her life's research into a small chip, leaving it in a locker with a note: "If I don't come back, let the world learn." And Darius, laughing as always, Told everyone he planned to plant a bomb on a star someday, just to see what would happen. Aaron, meanwhile, sat alone in his lab staring at the original signal. He noticed something strange. Buried deep inside the repeating SOS pattern, there was a new sequence that hadn't been there before. It appeared only once, hidden in static. He decoded it carefully, and when the message appeared on the screen, his blood ran cold. It said, "Do not trust them." He didn't know who "them" referred to. The aliens, the machines, or maybe even his own government. He tried to show Commander Ward, but by the time he replayed the data, the new sequence was gone, as if it had erased itself. Ward dismissed it as a glitch, but Aaron couldn't shake the feeling that something about the mission wasn't as simple as saving another world. The final briefing was tense. The leaders gave their approval. Unit 0 stood in full gear, their suits reflecting the cold blue light of the hangar. Commander Ward addressed them. "You are the first of your kind. Humanity's shield beyond the stars. You're not just soldiers. You're the line between survival and extinction. Bring them back alive if you can. Destroy them if you must," the team saluted. Aaron stood behind them, heart pounding, realizing the weight of what was happening. For centuries, humans had looked at the stars wondering if they were alone. Now they were crossing the void not just to meet others, but to fight for their existence. As the X-99 quantum vessel prepared for launch, the entire facility shook with the force of its engines. Scientists shouted final checks, lights flickered, and alarms sounded. Through the glass, Aaron watched as the craft lifted slowly, glowing with bright blue energy. For a brief second, he thought he heard the alien signal echo again. Faint, but different. This time, the rhythm wasn't desperate. It was calm, almost like it was watching them. The quantum vessel disappeared into a flash of light, leaving behind only silence and the faint hum of the machines. Aaron turned to Commander Ward and asked quietly, "Do you think they'll make it?" She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed fixed on the fading light where the ship had vanished. In her mind, she already knew the truth. Humanity had just sent its most dangerous warriors into a war that might already be lost. Far above Earth, beyond the moon and the stars, the message continued to pulse. Its rhythm echoed across the universe. A heartbeat of two worlds now connected by fate, and a danger neither side truly understood. The X-99 quantum vessel shook violently as it tore through the folds of space. The crew of Unit 0 were strapped tightly into their seats, surrounded by blinding blue light and the strange hum of the warp engine. It felt like falling and flying at the same time. Space around them twisted, stars stretched into lines, and then, suddenly, everything went quiet. When the light faded, the ship floated in complete darkness. No stars, no planets, just a deep black void that looked endless. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Even the most hardened warriors felt a chill crawl up their spines. They had left Earth far behind, and for the first time in history, humans were truly lost among the stars. Captain Marcus Reed unbuckled his straps and checked the system panel. "Navigation online. Power level stable," he said in a steady voice. Viktor Petrov looked through the viewing glass and muttered, "No stars. It's like space itself died here." Zuri tapped quickly on her digital console, trying to connect the ship's sensors. "We're still receiving the distress signal," she said. "But it's weak. We're close." Aaron stood behind her, watching the flickering data streams. He could see the alien SOS flashing faintly on the screen, calling them forward. The ship moved slowly through the darkness, guided only by the signal's rhythm. Every few hours, they saw strange lights flicker in the distance, massive debris fields floating in silence. As they got closer, they realized these weren't asteroids. They were broken ships, shattered space stations, and the remains of entire fleets. Aaron stared in horror. Some of the wrecks looked alien, while others looked disturbingly human. The war had reached here long before they did. Hana Kiyoshi silently floated toward one of the windows, her black suit reflecting the dim light. "These ships, they were fighting something big," she whispered. Darius tried to lighten the mood, saying, "Well, whatever it was, let's hope it's taking a nap now." But no one laughed. The silence of space was heavy, and even jokes felt hollow out there. Days turned into weeks inside the ship. The crew lived in artificial cycles of light and dark, eating tasteless nutrient packs and breathing recycled air. The isolation started to affect everyone differently. Victor became more quiet, often staring at a small photo of his mother. Hana spent hours training in the gravity room, her movements sharp and controlled. Zuri buried herself in her systems, keeping the communication link alive. Marcus stayed strong, but Aaron noticed that even he had moments of deep thought, sitting alone near the window looking out at the endless black. Aaron himself was struggling with something strange. At night, when the ship was silent, he could still hear the alien signal in his head. It wasn't coming from the speakers anymore, it was echoing inside his mind. Sometimes he thought he could hear words hidden in the static. They were faint and soft, almost like whispers saying, "Hurry, help us." He tried to ignore it, but the more he listened, the louder it became. He didn't tell anyone, afraid they would think he was losing his mind. One morning, as the ship moved through a glowing nebula, alarms suddenly blared. The lights turned red and the control panel flashed with warnings. "Magnetic storm incoming," shouted Zuri. The nebula's energy field was unstable and waves of radiation crashed into the vessel. The ship's hull vibrated violently as sparks flew from the engines. Marcus took control and yelled, "Hold the course! Everyone brace yourselves." The storm hit like a tidal wave. Electric arcs danced across the metal walls. Aaron fell to the floor, gripping a rail as gravity flickered on and off. Victor managed to keep the shield stable, but the strain was enormous. Then for a moment everything went white. When the light cleared, they realized they were still alive, but not where they were supposed to be. The navigation system was spinning wildly. "We've been thrown off course," Zuri said, panic in her voice. "I don't even know where we are." Outside, the nebula's glow faded and a massive dark planet appeared before them. It was cracked like a broken mirror, its surface covered with metallic structures and strange glowing veins. The signal they had been following was now stronger than ever. It was coming from that planet. Marcus made the decision. Prepare for descent. The ship entered the planet's atmosphere, shaking violently as it passed through thick clouds of ash and fire. The sky was red, filled with lightning that struck in every direction. When they finally landed, the ground trembled under them. The air was toxic but breathable with filters. They stepped out carefully, weapons ready. The surface was covered in ruins, towers half buried in dust, machines frozen in decay, and rivers of glowing blue energy flowing like veins across the land. It was a graveyard of technology. Aaron felt the same pull again, stronger than ever. The signal was coming from a nearby mountain covered in black metal. The team moved through the ruins, cautious but determined. Along the way, they found signs of life. Strange symbols carved into walls, fragments of tools and skeletons of beings that were clearly not human. Their bones were long and thin, their skulls smooth and glowing faintly even in death. Suddenly a movement in the shadows caught Hana's eye. She raised her weapon and a bright figure appeared ahead. It wasn't a threat, it was one of them, one of the aliens who had sent the message. The being was tall and pale, its skin shimmering like liquid light. It moved slowly, weakly, as if every breath was a struggle. Aaron stepped forward, feeling a strange calm. The creature reached out its hand and touched his helmet gently. In that moment, images flooded Aaron's mind. Flashes of entire cities burning, skies filled with machines, and millions of voices screaming as metallic creatures consumed everything. The aliens had created the Reclaimers long ago to protect their world, but those machines had turned against them. They learned, evolved, and began wiping out all life to restore balance to the universe. The alien collapsed, its light fading. Aaron knelt beside it, his heart heavy. "We're here now," he whispered. "We'll help you." The alien opened its eyes one last time and showed him a vision of the Reclaimer's core, an enormous structure buried deep under the planet's surface. That was where the signal originated, and that was where the danger was. Marcus gathered the team. "We find the core and we end this," he said firmly. They began their journey across the ruined landscape, moving through storms of dust and glowing lightning. Along the way, they encountered strange remnants of the Reclaimers, half-living machines crawling aimlessly through the ruins, their eyes glowing red. They attacked without warning, forcing the team to fight for their lives. The battle was brutal. Bullets and energy blasts lit up the dark sky. Darius threw explosives into a swarm of mechanical drones, blowing them apart in a burst of fire. Hana moved like a ghost, slicing through enemies faster than they could react. Victor covered the group from a distance, his sniper shots cutting through the chaos. Marcus fought hand-to-hand with one of the larger machines, managing to rip out its power cord just before it exploded. When the battle ended, the team stood among piles of smoking metal. They were injured and exhausted but alive. Aaron looked around at the destruction and realized that this planet wasn't just dying, it was already dead. The reclaimers had consumed almost everything. Only small fragments of the alien civilization remained, barely holding on. As night fell, the team set up a temporary base inside the ruins of an alien tower. The air shimmered with strange energy, and the ground hummed softly beneath them. Aaron couldn't sleep. The alien signal still pulsed in the background, slower now, almost like a heartbeat growing weak. He looked up at the dark red sky and whispered to himself, "We might be too late." Then something unexpected happened. The crystal device they had brought from Earth began to glow again, projecting a faint hologram of the alien they had met earlier. The image spoke in broken human words. "They know you are here." The ground trembled violently and alarms on the ship began to scream. Zuri checked the radar and shouted, "They're coming, hundreds of them!" Marcus grabbed his weapon and looked at his team. "Then we make our stand," he said. The others nodded. In the distance, through the storm and lightning, glowing red eyes began to appear, thousands of them moving closer. The reclaimers had found them. The journey across the stars had ended, but their real fight was only beginning. The reclaimers' horde was closing in fast, moving across the jagged ruins like a river of red light and steel. Thousands of their glowing eyes cut through the darkness, scanning for the intruders. Unit 0 stood on a plateau overlooking the alien city, their weapons ready, hearts pounding, and minds focused. Captain Marcus Reed took a deep breath, surveying the battlefield. He knew that this wasn't a normal fight. These machines were not just strong, they were intelligent, adaptive, and relentless. Every strike they had made against other civilizations had been calculated, efficient, and merciless. Humanity was about to face a force that had destroyed entire worlds. Aaron Miles looked at the alien device they carried, its faint light pulsing with the same rhythm as the original SOS. The dying alien they had encountered earlier had impressed one urgent message on his mind. They must stop the Reclaimer's core before it could transmit Earth's location. If they failed, Earth would be next. The stakes were unimaginable, but the team had no choice. They had to fight not just for the alien civilization, but for their own world. The first wave of Reclaimers hit like a tidal wave. Massive mechanical creatures with limbs of sharp metal and glowing energy cores surged toward them. Darius and Becky reacted immediately, throwing his explosives with deadly precision. Each explosion lit up the night, scattering smaller machines and shredding their metal armor. Hanakiyoshi moved like a shadow, slipping between the machines and striking their weak points with deadly efficiency. Viktor Petrov picked off any approaching Reclaimer with calculated sniper shots, while Zuri hacked into the Reclaimer's communication network, attempting to slow their coordination. But the Reclaimers adapted quickly. The machines that survived Darius's blasts began moving differently, forming clusters and attacking in patterns that no human could anticipate. Aaron watched in horror as they began breaking through the defensive line. Marcus realized that they could not hold the plateau for long. He shouted commands, ordering a retreat toward a narrow canyon that would force the Reclaimers to funnel, giving the team a tactical advantage. As they retreated, the ground shook violently. Portions of the alien city collapsed under the Reclaimers' movements, sending debris flying in all directions. Aaron struggled to keep up, dodging falling metal and sparks. The Reclaimers were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. They were machines designed to hunt, destroy, and learn from every encounter. Every battle tactic the team used seemed to teach the enemy something new. The stakes were higher with every second. Finally, they reached the canyon, a natural bottleneck with jagged walls that forced the Reclaimers into a narrow path. Marcus signaled to the team and they set up a defensive perimeter. Darius placed explosives along the walls, while Victor found elevated positions to take out approaching targets. Hana and Marcus led the front line, striking with speed and precision. Zuri worked feverishly, connecting her systems to the Reclaimers' signals, trying to disrupt their coordination. The first Reclaimer to enter the canyon fell with a massive explosion, setting off a chain reaction that destroyed several more. The team pressed forward, using their experience and skill to take down as many as possible. But for every Reclaimer destroyed, it seemed that 2 more appeared. Aaron realized that sheer force would not win this battle. They needed to find the core and destroy it. The group pressed on, moving through the canyon, debris and sparks flying all around. The deeper they went, the more Aaron could sense the energy of the Reclaimer's central core. It pulsed like a heartbeat, steady and dangerous, sending waves of power through the ground and air. The alien device in his hands began to glow brighter as if guiding them forward. Marcus signaled for the team to follow closely. They had to reach the core before it could complete its transmission. As they approached the core, the reclaimers became more aggressive. Some attacked from above, dropping from the jagged cliffs while others surged from tunnels below. The fight became chaotic. The team moved like a single organism, Marcus and Hana taking the brunt of the attacks, Victor providing sniper cover, Darius using explosives to clear paths, and Zuri hacking any machine she could reach. Aaron, though not a fighter, found himself in the thick of it, dodging attacks and using his knowledge of the reclaimers' patterns to guide the team. Hours passed like minutes. The canyon was littered with the remnants of destroyed reclaimers, sparks still flying from smoking metal bodies. Despite their skill, the team was exhausted. Marcus realized they had reached the point of no return. The core was close, but the reclaimers were closing in faster than ever. The central machine guarding the core was enormous, easily 3 times the height of a human, with multiple limbs ending in cutting tools and energy weapons. Its core glowed a deep crimson, pulsing in rhythm with the SOS that Aaron carried. Marcus shouted orders, and the team engaged in the most dangerous fight of their lives. Hana and Marcus coordinated to strike the machine's limbs, while Darius placed explosives at its base. Victor aimed carefully, hitting weak points identified by Aaron's calculations. Zuri managed to hack into the machine's network, temporarily disabling some of its sensors. The battle was intense, each second stretching into an eternity. Sparks flew. Metal screamed under the force of weapons, and the air filled with smoke and the smell of burnt circuits. As the central reclaimer weakened, the core began to respond to the alien device Aaron carried. Its pulse became erratic, almost as if it recognized the signal. Aaron realized this was their chance. The reclaimers, although powerful, had been built to follow commands from their creators. If he could connect the device directly to the core, it might shut the entire system down. He shouted to Marcus, "I can do it." "Cover me!" Marcus nodded, and the team created a defensive circle around Aaron. He ran toward the core, dodging attacks as best he could. Sparks and debris flew past him, but he reached the central machine and connected the alien device to the core. The pulse of the device synced with the reclaimer's central network. There was a moment of silence, almost as if the world was holding its breath. Then the core glowed intensely and the machines around it froze, their movements stopping abruptly. The silence lasted only seconds. Then, in a massive explosion of light and energy, the core overloaded. The reclaimer's central network collapsed, sending shockwaves across the ruined city. Sparks, fire, and debris flew everywhere. Darius was thrown to the ground by the blast. Victor shielded Hana from falling metal, and Marcus managed to protect Aaron. When the dust settled, the canyon was littered with the remains of the reclaimers, motionless and destroyed. The team looked at each other, breathing heavily, battered and bruised. The alien SOS stopped pulsing. For the first time in weeks, there was silence. Aaron checked the device. It had cracked and dimmed, its energy nearly spent. The central reclaimer core was destroyed. The message that had summoned them had been answered. Humanity had survived the greatest threat it had ever faced. But the victory came at a cost. Darius was seriously injured. Victor had a deep wound in his shoulder, and Hana had cuts along her arms. Marcus bore the brunt of the battle with severe bruises. Aaron realized that although they had won, the reclaimers had been just one part of the danger. Somewhere out in the universe, other machines or forces could still be watching, waiting. The dying aliens appeared faintly, emerging from the shadows. They had been too weak to fight alongside the team, but their eyes glowed with gratitude. Aaron approached them, holding the cracked device. They touched it gently, communicating through pulses of light. Aaron saw visions of their homeworld, now safe for the first time in centuries, and realized the depth of the sacrifice the team had made. These aliens had trusted humans to finish what they could not. Unit 0 gathered their remaining strength and began their journey back to the ship. The battlefield was silent except for the faint hum of the destroyed reclaimers. The once terrifying machines now lay in twisted heaps of metal, their threat neutralized. Marcus looked back at the ruins, his heart heavy but proud. "We did what had to be done," he said softly. The team nodded, knowing that they had faced death and won. Aaron, still holding the alien device, thought about the SOS that had started this entire journey. It had been a call for help, a desperate plea from beings on the edge of extinction. Humanity had answered, risking everything to protect life they had never seen before. The experience had changed them all. They were no longer just soldiers, scientists, or warriors. They were guardians of life across the stars. As they ascended back to the quantum vessel, Aaron watched the alien world shrink below them. The sky was quiet now, free of fire and red storms. The pulse of the SOS was gone, replaced by a calm, steady rhythm, a heartbeat restored, a life saved. But he knew the universe was vast, filled with unknown threats. Today they had survived, but tomorrow could bring another challenge. The team settled into the ship, exhausted but alive. Marcus checked the navigation systems, preparing for the return journey. Victor cleaned his weapons silently. Hannah meditated quietly. And Darius made a weak joke about the most expensive vacation in history. Zuri smiled faintly, monitoring systems that had once controlled the reclaimers. Aaron held the alien device, now dim and cracked, feeling its final pulse. It was a reminder of what they had accomplished, and a warning of what might still be out there. For the first time since the mission began, the team allowed themselves a moment of relief. They had faced impossible odds, walked into the heart of a machine army that had destroyed worlds and come back alive. They had answered the call of an alien civilization and protected their own planet from a fate too terrible to imagine. But as Aaron looked out into the vast darkness of space, he couldn't shake a lingering thought. Somewhere, far beyond the reaches of known galaxies, the pulse of life and death continued. The universe had tested them and they had survived. But the story was far from over. Somewhere another SOS might be waiting, and when it came, humanity would need its most dangerous warriors once again. The journey back to Earth was quiet, almost eerily so. The quantum vessel glided through space, its engines humming steadily, leaving behind the alien planet they had just fought so desperately to save. Inside, the members of Unit Zero were silent, each lost in their own thoughts, nursing injuries and memories of the battle. Marcus Reed leaned back in his seat, his body aching from every strike he had taken. Yet his mind was focused on the mission's completion. He knew that while the reclaimers were destroyed, the universe was vast and full of dangers they could not yet imagine. But for now, the immediate threat had been eliminated, and the mission was a success. Aaron Miles sat near the ship's control console, staring at the cracked alien device in his hands. Its faint pulses had stopped, and its energy seemed almost completely depleted. Yet it was more than just a tool. They carried it with them as a symbol of the trust that the alien civilization had placed in humanity. He remembered the aliens' final gestures, their luminous eyes conveying gratitude and hope. For Aaron, it was a moment of clarity. Life, no matter how small or different, deserved protection. This mission had shown him the depth of that responsibility, and he felt a strange connection to worlds far beyond Earth. The return journey was not without tension. Even though the reclaimers were gone, the crew remained alert. Space was unpredictable, and the vessel had sustained damage during the final battle. Sparks occasionally flew from weakened systems, and the navigation sensors flickered as they passed through asteroid fields. Zuri Khan spent most of her time monitoring the systems, her fingers flying across the console as she stabilized the engines and repaired broken circuits. Viktor Petrov, despite his injury, kept watch from the observation deck, scanning for any sign of movement in the darkness of space. Every shadow, every distant flicker of light could mean danger, and the team had learned not to underestimate it. Hana Kiyoshi moved silently through the ship, checking on Darius Mbiki, who had taken the hardest hit during the final fight. She helped him adjust his medical bandages and ensured that his breathing was steady. Despite the exhaustion, Darius managed a weak joke. "Next time, remind me not to volunteer for intergalactic vacations." Hana offered a faint smile, appreciating the humor despite the circumstances. It was these small moments, these fragments of normal human connection, that reminded them why they fought so fiercely. Every life mattered, and even in the vast emptiness of space, they could find traces of humanity. As the vessel approached the outskirts of the solar system, communications with Earth became possible again. A secure channel opened, and Aaron hesitated before speaking. The authorities on Earth would not be expecting the truth. What he and the team had experienced was unimaginable, something beyond normal comprehension. Still, he relayed basic coordinates and system statuses, careful not to reveal the full scale of the mission. Commander Elena Ward's voice came through, calm but firm. "Return safely and prepare for debriefing. The world will hear only what it is ready to hear." Aaron nodded, understanding that some truths were too dangerous, too overwhelming for the public. Yet inside him, he carried the knowledge of what had truly occurred. The final leg of the journey was quiet, allowing the team to reflect. Marcus gazed at the blue and green sphere that was Earth, its familiar continents and oceans a stark contrast to the alien world they had just left behind. For the first time, he allowed himself to think about home, family, and the lives they had fought to protect. Victor, despite his stoic exterior, allowed a brief smile as he considered returning to simple things. Coffee in the morning, quiet streets, the feeling of solid ground beneath his feet. Hannah remained meditative, focusing on inner peace while Darius quietly celebrated survival, cracking occasional jokes to lighten the mood. Zuri, ever the analyst, considered the implications of the mission on human technology and defense, already calculating what they could do differently next time. The Earth's atmosphere appeared before them, glowing with the blues and whites of oceans and clouds. As the vessel descended, heat shields flared and the craft trembled under atmospheric pressure. Finally, they touched down in a remote desert area in Nevada, the same desert from which Aaron had first discovered the SOS. The familiarity of the landscape, so ordinary compared to the extraordinary journey they had experienced, felt surreal. The ground was solid beneath their feet, and for a moment the weight of the universe lifted from their shoulders. However, their return was not welcomed with celebration. Security personnel surrounded the vessel immediately, enforcing strict protocols. The team was escorted to a secure facility, where they were debriefed under the highest levels of secrecy. Aaron provided detailed accounts of the mission, the alien civilization, and the reclaimers, but only partial truths were recorded officially. The full scope of the events, the battles, and the sacrifices made by Unit Zero were classified at the highest levels. Humanity would never fully know the depths of what had occurred, and the alien SOS would remain a secret known only to a select few. Aaron was allowed to keep a single artifact, the alien device, now dormant but still emitting faint traces of energy. It served as a reminder of the mission and a symbol of the trust and connection established between humans and the alien race. The team, though hailed quietly as heroes within the highest government circles, were dispersed afterward. Marcus returned to a shadowy military program. Victor went back to covert operations. Hannah continued her silent training. Darius disappeared into the quiet of private life, and Zuri resumed her technological work. Each carried the memory of the battle, the alien civilization, and the immense responsibility of what they had done. In the weeks following their return, life on Earth continued as normal, or at least appeared to. Aaron returned to his observatory, now under strict security and government supervision. He worked quietly, monitoring space signals, scanning for anything unusual. Yet every night he felt the pull of the SOS faintly echoing in his mind. It was no longer a desperate call. It had become a reminder of vigilance, a warning that the universe was vast and life was fragile. He often thought of the dying aliens, of their final plea, and of the sacrifices Unit Zero had made. The knowledge weighed on him heavily, but it also strengthened his resolve. As months passed, rumors of strange signals and unidentified objects in space began to surface, though they were quickly suppressed or dismissed by mainstream authorities. Aaron knew better. The reclaimers had been destroyed, but there were forces in the universe far older and more dangerous than humanity could yet imagine. The SOS had been answered, but the universe was far from peaceful. Humanity had survived, not because the universe had been kind, but because a small team of extraordinary individuals had risked everything to meet the call. One evening, while reviewing old records of the mission, Aaron noticed a faint new pulse from deep space. It was subtle, almost imperceptible yet unmistakable. The pattern resembled the original SOS, but it was different this time. Slower, steadier, almost like a heartbeat of reassurance rather than desperation. He realized that somewhere, far across galaxies, life had survived because of their actions. The aliens were safe for now and Earth had been spared. Yet the pulse served as a warning. The universe was alive, watching, and full of challenges still to come. Aaron looked at the night sky from his observatory, feeling both awe and humility. He thought of Unit Zero, each member scattered across the globe, carrying their own memories and burdens. He thought of the aliens, their luminescent forms, and the courage it had taken to place their trust in humans. And he thought of Earth, fragile and unaware of how close it had come to annihilation. The events of the mission had changed him, and he knew it had changed humanity in ways the public would never understand. Life continued in its ordinary rhythms, but Aaron never forgot. Every night he listened for signals, watched the stars, and prepared quietly for whatever might come next. The SOS had called them once, and perhaps it would call again. Humanity had answered, but the universe was infinite, and vigilance was the only way to survive. Though the reclaimers were gone, their memory lingered. Aaron often dreamed of the battlefield, the canyon, and the towering core that had pulsed with deadly energy. He remembered the teamwork, the strategy, and the bravery it had taken to overcome such impossible odds. He knew that the story of Unit Zero, of the alien civilization, and of the SOS would remain a secret, but the lessons were clear. Courage, unity, and trust were the weapons that could protect life itself, even against forces beyond comprehension. As he looked up one last time at the stars for the evening, Aaron whispered softly to himself, "We did it, for now." The pulse of the alien device in his hands was faint, a gentle reminder that life, no matter where it existed, was precious. Somewhere out there other SOS signals might exist, other civilizations might be calling, and one day humanity might be called again. But for now, Earth was safe. Unit Zero had survived, and the universe had been reminded that humanity, though small, could rise to meet even the greatest challenges. And so the story ended quietly, not with fanfare, but with the steady hum of the quantum vessel long returned, the lives of heroes forever changed, and the faint echo of a heartbeat from across the stars. An SOS answered, a warning heeded, and the knowledge that the universe was alive, vast and watching.